Shalom. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahushai Bahasham, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And peace and mercy to the hopeful elect, the 144,000 men that are doing this work in sincerity and in truth across the four corners of the earth. And much love to the 1/3 and the innumerable multitude of you believers out there. To you all I say Shalom. I'm the brother Yeshaya, and I pray, Lord willing, that this lesson is edifying through the Spirit. All right, so, excuse me. Salakia. The reason why I'm doing this lesson is because something that, of course, we know through the Spirit and that I've been observing over years, but this time the Lord told me to, hit a lesson on this. So, at my job, I'm in my job, and we've mentioned this on camera before because myself and one of the other brothers in the camp, we work together. So this is okay. I can't describe necessarily how it is, but we have an open space and we have cubicles at my office, and so on the other side of the cubicles there are aisles and rows and things like that, and so we have back rooms, right? They're like half glass and like a door blocking behind it. So first I want to say there used to be a young Arab girl. I would say she was probably about anywhere from 21 to 23, 24 maybe, but she used to wear her hijab, her head wrap and her dress, and I, some people thought she was weird. I never got to like talk to her, but, she had a pretty face, but nonetheless, she would do is she would always go in this back room and everybody knew she was praying. But this is the thing, and I'm going to get the guy is even worse. But she always goes to the part of the room, instead of going directly behind the door where no one can see her, she goes to the part of the room where you can see straight through the glass to see what she's doing. And she goes in there to pray. But she always goes in the part with the glass where everybody can see her, lights on and everything, So their mentality about prayer is absolutely incorrect according to the Bible. And this is how you know that it's not in sincerity. All right. And so, and I always say that, man, like that's through, and then, so now to talk about the man, and I'm going to get scriptures out momentarily. All right. So now you get the man. Now this man is, if I had to guess his age, I would say he's in his 50s. If I had to guess, I would say he's in his 50s. He's Ishmaelite. Okay, he might be a Jake, but he sounds like Ishmael. He's a Muslim. He doesn't dress very well. I think I see him pretty much wear the same outfit all the time. That doesn't mean he couldn't be a Jake. I've never had a conversation with him, but he head nods me every now and then when he sees me. But nonetheless, and this is not necessarily to shame them. It's to shame what they worship. So I know how that feeling is. Like, yeah, you're talking about me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to disrespect them. It comes off as disrespectful when we say certain things, but the truth sounds disrespectful to those that are stuck in the lie. All right? So, and I know I'm getting around to my precepts, y'all, so forgive me. But so this man, we have in the aisles and the rows, not even in the back doors, the back rooms, he goes to the very last aisle, and you'll see him bend down, all right, and then he'll stand up and he'll just be sitting there with his eyes closed, his hands like on his chest, just talking to himself. And I'm like, okay, everybody knows he's praying. Now, from the regular aisles, you can see him when he stands up and closing his eyes and praying. From the break room, you can see him clear as day. You can see him clear as day. And it's like they don't try to hide it. They don't try to go to their own space. Nothing like that. This man is clear as day in what he's doing. And as I was looking at him, I damn near wanted to take a picture to be able to put on for y'all so y'all could see it. But obviously I don't want to be caught recording in my job, especially over something like that. But it was bugged out, man. So, and this is what Muslims think that is okay. So I want to get some scriptures explaining why The Muslim way of prayer, their understanding is flawed, period. But their way of prayer lets you know that it's unholy, it's unbiblical, and it's just for the worshiping of the eyes of men. It is not to worship their God. All right, so let me start with this. This is Matthew, the 6th chapter, in the first verse. It says, "Take heed that ye do not do your alms before men, to be seen of them. Otherwise, ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven." So when you're giving somebody something, you shouldn't be always just, "Hey, here you go," and putting it out in the open. Every now and then you might give a brother something, just without thinking about it. But your alms are supposed to be in secret. Everybody don't always have to know about it. That's how you get rewarded by Yahweh Shem Shai. Verse 2 says, "Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you that they have their reward." So people who, used to have Christians, "Hey, we having a big sandwich giveaway," or they'll be on the block handing out water, food, pizza, all this kind of stuff. But that's them blowing a trumpet, sounding a trumpet before them, right? Trying to appear holy, but they're doing that for the glory in the sight of men. All right? It says, "But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret, himself shall reward thee openly." All right, so verse 5, and this is the point going into it, it says, "And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are." So the Lord says, when you pray, you're not supposed to be hypocritical, right? And it wasn't. Lord, when that verse comes up, it's a definition that I want to get. But let's get hypocrite. I think that's the word I wanted to get out of that, hypocrite. It says, let me just go back to check that that's the word I want to get. Thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are. It says a hypocrite is someone who pretends to have qualities, beliefs, or virtues that they do not actually possess. Sheesh. Especially when their actions contradict their stated beliefs. Okay, so we are not hypocritical here in Great Millstone. We put forth exactly what we preach. Okay, it says hypocrisy is the act of pretending to be something or believe something that is not true, or acting in a way that contradicts one's stated beliefs. So it says, do not as the hypocrites are. So it says, and when thou payest. So now there's a group of people that are hypocrites that do as the when they pray, they're hypocritical. It says, "For they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say to you, they have their reward." Right? So you got men that are praying in the synagogue, right? You got Amalek doing this. You got Jake doing this, right? But the main one right now in 2025 that are doing this, praying inside of men, you have Christian men on holding each other's hands and prayer groups and stuff. But the main hypocrite that's guilty of this through the spirit is Ishmael, man. You so-called Arabs, you Muslims of the different nations, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you are the true Israelites, the true biblical Israelites. You are not Ishmaelites. You are not Arabic. You are not Muslims. You are not descendants of Abraham and Ishmael. You are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a completely separate bloodline. So all you dudes in Detroit, Chicago, and all these different cities thinking that y'all Muslims, man, God does not approve of their way of prayer, right? And before I continue reading this, we got to understand what the scriptures say about that too. This is let me see. Prayer. I ain't bought this out in a minute, but I love this verse though. Psalms 28:9. It says, "He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination." So, hey, a part of the law is the things that Yahweh Shah spoke. right? If you turn ear away from hearing the law, even your prayers won't work. So, the law says you're not supposed to serve idol gods. So that means your prayers are even abomination, even if they were righteous. But even your prayers are out of line with what God would want. All right? The Most High bless people in alms, and we give him the prayer for it. We give him the glory. He doesn't go around, saying, I'm God, I did this, even though he deserves the glory for it. But it says, and when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in against synagogues and in the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. So when they pray in my job and stuff like that, you just being seen of men. Bro, y'all should see it. The glass is so big, and they sit there and close their eyes and act like they're praying. And he does that. He's supposed to do it 5 times a day. So I would say I see him do it about 2 or 3 times a day. Because he probably does the other ones at home. But, bro, you can ask for a private room in that building. I know they got other rooms that we don't use. Shit, you could even go, and this is how I know they can have some privacy. And I'm not saying this to gloat or nothing like that, but in the same room where the girl used to go, she got fired or she left something. But the same room she used to do that in, I'll go and I'll do push-ups behind that same door, but nobody ever sees me because my intent is not to be seen. So that's how I know they're doing it for the eyes of men, and they're not truly doing it for their faith, right? They're just doing it because they've been told to do that. But they want to appear holy. They want people to think, oh, this is a holy man. Oh, this is a holy woman, right? They got your reward because they got seen them in. That ain't real prayer to Yahweh Hashem Shah. So you got your reward, okay. You want people to think you holy, you got it. You won. Congratulations, participation trophy. But that's not what the Most High really wants. It says, but thou, right? But thou means you Israelites, when you pray, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Right? So it says, but you Israelites, when y'all go pray, you go into your closet, which means you go into an enclosed space. It does not mean you have to go into your literal closet. You can, but it means to go into an enclosed space. So if you got a room and there's nobody else, you can go in your room. You can go in your a part where nobody else is at. Okay? And then shut thy door. So when you're in the closet, you shut the door. So because you ain't trying to get the praise from other people. You're trying to get the praise to Yahweh Shem Shai. And then he gives you more. He bestows more beauty, honor, and glory upon you and things like that. But that ain't what you praying for. But it says, when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and then he's going to reward you openly. So you want rewards from Yahweh Shem Shai, you praying in secret. But they're praying openly, so they getting their reward. So the Lord gonna judge them, man. The Lord's gonna take whole lot of Ishmaelites out, and a lot of Jakes, man. You follow this nonsense and think it's all right because they sing and they seem holy. But the reason really Jake liked them is because they're a carnal religion. It's about bang bang, shoot 'em up, dying, losing your life, and that's because the streets is tied with gang mentality. We just know that it's tied with gang mentality. But when you understand the Bible talks about how Ishmael would be and his descendants. All right, this is Genesis 16-12. I'm going to start at 11. It says, and the angel of the Lord said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and his hand and every man's hands against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. So this is why you have everybody who thinks, as soon as you see a dude who looks like a Muslim or Arabic, he get on a plane, everybody clutching their bags and thinking he's gonna blow the plane up. It's because he's a wild man. Allahu Akbar, boom, they blow themselves up, all this kind of shit. So his hand is against every man, every man's hand is against him. So everybody is against them through the, not like us, but they wary of this wild man because you never know what he's up to, right? You never know what he's capable of. So everybody's eyes are constantly on him, So that's why our people, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, that's why y'all want to follow Islam, It's because you get to you be thinking, oh, I can still wear all black all the time, wear my gun, shoot, kill niggas and still seem holy. Because you sacrificing and killing niggas for Allah, which the word Allah is not a name, by the way. The word Allah comes from a Hebrew word Elohim, which means powers, judges, rulers, right? That's the only way they get that from. The Bible, the word Quran means to recite or recital, and it's mimicking the Bible. Okay, but it misses a lot of parts when people look over all these parts. Like y'all say you can't eat pork, but then you say you can eat it in a dangerous situation of your life depends on it. But men in the Bible, they gave and sacrificed their lives to keep the law of the Lord, not to stain their reputation and not eat swine's flesh, not eat pork. So, hey man, we just cut from a different cloth. We of the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It shows it significantly. Y'all eat shrimp and lobster and say it's no big deal. But according to the Bible, that's incorrect. Those are abominations, right? But going back to Matthew 6 and 7, it says, but when ye pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think they shall be heard for their much speaking. So they think sitting there, Allah, and they sitting up there talking to him and saying the same thing over and over again. They think that's going to make him hear them. But the Lord let us know how he goes into goes into the Lord's Prayer. He lets us know what we need to pray for, right? It says, but be ye not therefore like unto them, for your father know what things you have need of before you even ask him. So he already know what you need. So we give the Lord's Prayer, it encompasses everything. And it goes on to say that, all right? But also, I'm going to jump down to verse 15. It says, but if ye forgive not men that 16. Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. Right? So even when like Ramadan came and things like that, and all these people, all these Ishmaelites were talking about they were fasting, they would let you know. First of all, you're not supposed to tell people when you're fasting. Maybe your family that stay in the house with you, just so they know what's going on. I could even see some of the brothers sometimes, but even them, you keep it to yourself half the time. But when they fast, they disfigure their faces. Hey, I'm fasting for Ramadan and doing this. People go ahead and they tell that, right? They tell that everything they do. So everything is for eye service, and that's not what the Most High wants. It says, when thou fastest, when you fast, anoint thy head and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth thee in secret shall reward thee openly. You see that? So he said, when you fast, act like it's nothing wrong. You fast in secret, so the Lord can bless you openly, man. You see the big difference between Israel and Ishmael just on something like that? This is Psalms 19 and 8. It says, the statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. You see, Yahweh Shem Shai has enlightened our eyes so that we can see through that veil of wickedness now. We can see that Ishmael is not our forefather. We can see that this place is completely out of whack. It says, so our eyes have been enlightened through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, keeping our eyes single, praying to be full of light. And theirs is dark, man. It's darkness over it in dealing with being a Muslim, man. It's darkness. It's a dark cloud over that, man. And that's going to come to naught, too. They're going to throw away their idols, man. This is Ephesians 6 and 5. It says, servants, be obedient to them that are your masters, according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and singleness of heart. So, man, we through the Spirit, we know through the apostles and the elders, we have that certain level of fear. It's about Yahweh Shem Shai, but we know that those are men of the Lord, right? But it says, with fear and trembling, with singleness of heart. Your mind is supposed to be focused on the Lord. It says, as unto Mashiach, or your mind and your mentality is supposed to be focused on the Lord. It says, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as the servants of Hamashiach, doing the will of the Most High from the heart. So we do it from the heart. We don't do it from for needing people to give us a pat on the back and say, or be like, oh, look, that's a holy man. People be knowing we holy and we don't even got to say nothing, man. You know, this lady asked me yesterday at our job. And mind you, I haven't told nobody about what I believe at my job. Nobody. You know. But this woman asked me, she said, "Yeah, so what's your religion? I heard that you're really religious." I ain't never said that to nobody in my job. I ain't never brought up no scriptures to nobody in my job. Nothing like that. You see what I'm saying? But what will make you say that? You say that because they understand the spirit, man. And the Lord is the one that's doing that. So the Lord is the one operating this show. So we don't even we follow the laws, right? We be holy in the spirit. The Holy Spirit rests upon us, call our but we ain't going around looking like we praying and praying in the corner so people can see us and doing all this kind of stuff. So this is a huge flaw in the Islamic religion and doctrine. And they don't even understand that, man. But this is Genesis 21:9. It says, "And Sarah had saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had born unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son. For the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac." So after that, Abraham kicked him out. Ishmael and Hagar, man. But Isaac is the one who was going to receive the blessing. Right? It says in verse 12, "And the Most High said unto Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad and because of thy bondwoman, and all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice." So the Most High told her, listen to her. "For in Isaac shall thy seed be called," right? Because Abraham was bothered because he like, damn, she gave me the woman that had the child with, now she's tripping. You know, but he like, hey, it's all right. So he like cast him out because your lineage is gonna be is going to come through Isaac, man. That's where it was going to come from. All right. And so Abraham did as he was instructed. They cast her out. And that's what Ishmael is cast out now. Right. He's going to end up being a servant for 1,000 years, too, to the Israelites. Yeah, be a Muslim if you want to. You're going to find out what's going to happen to them. The Arabics, the true Arabics, they're going to be our slaves, man. This is Romans 9:7. It says, "Neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children." You see, Ishmael was his child. So just because you were a child of Abraham don't mean that you his child. Just because you was born of him, right? It says, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. So in the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is where the glory was going to come from, not out of Abraham and Ishmael. Ishmael got cast out, right? The same goes for Esau too, right? But it says that is they are which they are which are the children of the flesh. These are not the children of God. See that right there. So that verse alone in the New Testament lets you know that everybody is not a child of God. That right there. That's a cold, hard cut to everybody saying we are all children of God. This is talking about a group of people. And this is specifically, it's talking about the Ishmaelites. But it ain't just the Ishmaelites. The thing is, none of them are children of Most High except for the Israelites, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans and Israelite foreigners. It says, "But the children of the promise are counted for the seed." So the one, this true seed Islam is going to come through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? That's how it had to work. The 12 tribes of Israel. Okay? Let me see. Was there another verse that I wanted? Oh, I wanted to look up this word honest because I had 2 Corinthians 8:21. It says, "Providing for honest things, not only in the sight of the Lord, but also in the sight of men," right? So in the sight of men, you're supposed to do honest things too. And that's witchcraft, really. Trying to get people to think you holy and you not. That's sorcery. Right? Honest definition. It says free of deceit and untruthfulness, sincere. So they ain't sincere about that, man. That's what they've been instructed to do. That is based on indoctrination, not based on truth. It's a used to persuade someone of the truth of something. Morally correct or virtuous. Fairly earned, especially through hard work. Blameless or well-intentioned, even if unsuccessful or misguided. Simple, unpretentious, and unsophisticated. That's simple and that's unsophisticated, man. You know, I want people to think that I'm holy. Nah, man, be holy. Hey, like Quadash named Haya Quadash, man. Be holy. Don't look holy. Be holy, man. You want a wife that looks like a good wife, or a wife that actually is a good wife. You want a man that's a good father, a man that is actually a good father. All these things are something to consider, man. So this ain't honest, man. They care about the sight of men, but you're supposed to care about doing things right in the sight of the Lord. But then by doing things right in the sight of the Lord, you do things right that in the sight of men. But all they care about is that look that they're righteous and holy, man. All right? So we're looking to please the sight of Yahweh Shem Shah, not men. It says 1 John 3:22, and whatsoever we ask, we receive of him, because we keep his commandments, call Allah Yahweh Shem Shah, and do those things that are pleasing in his sight. You see that? So whatever we ask him, the Lord give it to us because we've serving him. So that's why you got to be obedient to the Spirit. You got to be thankful for Yahweh Shem Shah and the things he's looking after you over for everything, man. It says, so we doing those things to be pleasing in his sight, man. Right? And I don't know if I read this or not, brought out hypocrite earlier, but I'm going to read it again if I didn't. Ecclesiastes 1:29, be not an hypocrite in the sight of men, and take good heed what thou speakest. So don't be a hypocrite in the sight of men, man. And that's what they do, man. That's not for truth's sake. That they ain't going out there edifying truly. They going out there to make it look like they're something that they're not, man. And the Lord is going to destroy all of you Arabics, and y'all going into slavery for 1,000 years. You ain't got to believe me, but excuse my Hebrew. It is the motherfucking truth. Through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shah. And that's what the men of the Lord are telling y'all. But Lord willing, we be saved and delivered and not succumb to this nonsense that they're doing, man. Right? You go to your secret chambers and you pray to Yahweh Shem Shah. I ain't going to answer you. And we praying the Lord to save the elect and destroy America and all the heathen with it. So, hey, I pray, Lord willing, that this lesson was edifying. I want to give all the praise, the honor, and the glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, or Klakodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And peace and mercy to the elect. Until next time.